The country's gross domestic product, or GDP, grew at 5.6% for the second quarter of 2015. Better than the 5% for the first quarter. Compared to last year's growth, it's lower. Because of this, it's expected GDP growth of 7 to 8% for 2015 still possible. Joining us tonight here on NewsLife is NEDA Assistant Director General Rosemarie Edillion. Good evening, ma'am, and welcome to NewsLife.
Yeah, good evening, Cathy.
Ma'am, so we have 5 to 6% for the second quarter of 2015. Is this positive, or is this better or worse compared to our outlooks?
Well, compared to our outlooks, it's a bit on the downside. But if you compare it against our neighbors and what has been happening around the world, where a lot of growth forecasts have actually been downgraded, then we're actually in a better shape.
What sectors and factors do you think fueled this growth?
On the demand side, we're seeing government spending finally picking up. Government spending on its current operating expenditures, and also public construction. Private construction is also quite strong, and actually what dragged the economy was really the export sector, and again, that's understandable because of the downturn in many of our trading partners. But on the supply side, you're seeing a very robust services sector. The BPO sector is still very strong. Transport, communication services, and tourism is actually making a comeback.
Ma'am, now let's talk about the Philippine peso. The Philippine peso is on a rocky status right now. What do you think are the implications of this?
Actually, for as long as there will not be a sharp depreciation of the peso, and for as long as it will not be volatile, then the net effect is actually positive for us.
Okay.
So it will be good for the export sector. It will also be good for the import substituting sector. And of course, our BPO sector is also considered as a part of our export sector, so that will be good for them. Yeah.
Ma'am, how resilient is the Philippines in comparison with what the global market is? What's happening with the global market? For example, China's devaluation of the yuan.
Actually, I think we have shown that the Philippine economy is very resilient. Yeah, sure, we have there's a bit of a slowdown, but it's still quite respectable as compared to our neighbors. Like Thailand's growth was at 2.8%. Malaysia was 4.9%. Indonesia was 4.7%. So they were all reeling from the effects of the global economic slowdown, in particular China economic slowdown. But in our case, our domestic economy very strong, and it can support the growth that we want.
Let's go back to the Philippines, the different sectors here in the Philippines. Earlier you mentioned about the construction, both for the government and the private parties. What other sectors can we try to improve on so that we can be closer to our proposed goal for the GDP?
We're really banking a lot on the tourism industry, yeah, because the tourism industry actually has a lot of other sectors affiliated to it. There's transport, hotel and restaurant, and so many other, and plus it also creates a lot of jobs. That's why we are also very gung-ho on tourism. And then of course the BPO sector, it will still be very, very strong, and that will still be our advantage. Manufacturing, we hope will recover. Well, actually, it hasn't contracted, but there's really a marked slowdown, mainly because of the exports, many or what we call the export-related manufacturers.
Do you think that ongoing APEC meetings will bring a lot of positives for the country?
Yeah, we have seen that in the tourism numbers, and also in the travel services. So it's going to be positive, and we hope that it will also be sustained for quite some time, because like we said, that this is our chance to showcase not just our tourism spots, but also our efficiency in service.
In the past years, ma'am, our country has been a bit slowed down because of natural and now the country is dealing with El Nino. In terms of the agriculture sector, how are we doing, and what do you suggest we do to further improve our status?
Yeah, actually, the President has already constituted task forces to deal with the El Nino. So we're coming up with a roadmap. So the NEDA is actually in charge of the roadmap for the adaptation part. So we're looking at several strategies. Strategies with respect to the adaptation, work substitution, crop substitution in cases where, to substitute away from crops that are so very water-loving and those that are more drought-resistant. And in case that that's really not possible, then we will have work substitution. And we are already trying to identify those projects that we think we could be done in a labor-intensive way, like farm-to-market roads, desilting of the irrigation canals, and this will be part of the work substitution. Now, alongside this, there's also a task force on water management, because we will still have rains, actually, and it's just a matter of being very strategic and being very effective in collecting the rains. And then there was also a task force headed by the NDRIM, the OCD, and this is really on the conservation measures.
And ma'am, in a few months' time, the election period will formally begin. How do you think will this impact our economy?
It will only be positive, because in the past it has added something like 0.37 to our growth rate, and we think that will still be the case. But of course, we think that the impact will be more towards 16, and of course when the campaign period starts.
Finally, ma'am, what do you think is the best indicator for a Filipino that the Philippine economy is indeed doing very well?
Just look around. There's actually construction going on. I know people are so distressed about the traffic, but it's actually again part of our one of the reasons for that is still our economic growth, because you have lots of infrastructure projects going on. But we hope we can be able to overcome that. And like I said, there's just I think lots of progress going on.
And on that note, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsLife. That's Rosemarie Edillion, NEDA's Assistant Director General.